We're going to continue solving rational equations. With part 2, we're going to be looking at just more than 2 terms. We're going to be looking at 3 terms. So we're going to change it up from last time. Last time with 2 terms, we cross multiply. This time with 3 terms. What we're going to do is have a few more steps. We're first going to find the excluded value. We're going to find the least common denominator. We're going to multiply by the least common denominator so we can get rid of the fractions. We simplify each side of the equation, and then what we do is we solve for x and check for extraneous solutions. So looking at the first one, what we're going to do is find our excluded values, and for the excluded values, it's always what gives us 0 for the denominator. So in this case, x cannot equal 0. Then we're going to look at each of our denominators, and we're going to find a common denominator. In this case, it would be 6x. So we're multiplying each of them by 6x. When we do that, the 2x and the 6x cancel, and we're left with 3. 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. The 2 cancels with the 6x and gives me 3x. 3x times x is 3x squared. And the 3 cancels with the 6x and gives me 2x, which gives me plus 10x. Because it's a quadratic, I'm going to move the 3 to the other side. So I get 0 equals 3x squared plus 10x plus 3. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to factor this. I'm looking for 2 numbers that multiply together, give me 9, add up to 10, which would be 9 and 1. Because the leading coefficient is 3, I divide it by 3. And so I have x plus 3 and 3x plus 1. And so my answers, negative 3 and negative 1/3. Now, whenever you get your answers, what you have to do is check for extraneous solutions. And how you do that is you look at your excluded value and you see if that matches up with any of your x values. In this case, it doesn't, so that means that both of those answers work. So letter B. First thing we're going to do is look for our excluded values. So in this case, the excluded value x cannot equal 7. Then I'm going to look for my common denominator, and I see that it would be 2 and x minus 7. So I'm going to multiply 2 and x minus 7, and then 2 and x minus 7. X minus 7's cancel. 2 times 2 gives me 4x. 2 times 9 gives me the 18. The 2's cancel. So x times x is x squared. X times negative 7 is negative 7x. Here, the x minus 7's cancel. 2 times 5 gives me 10. I'm going to simplify. So I have the x squared minus 3x minus 18 equals 0. Sorry, not equals 10. And then what I want it to do is equal 0. So I subtract the 10. X squared minus 3x minus 28 is equal to 0. So I'm looking for 2 numbers that multiply together, give me negative 28, add up to negative 3, and that would be negative 7 and 4. So x minus 7 and x plus 4. And so x is equal to 7 or negative 4, but here what I have is a problem. And what the problem is that when I look at my excluded value, it's x is equal to 7, and I have a 7 right here. So that means I have to eliminate it, and my answer is just going to be x equals negative 4. So looking at letter C, first thing I'm going to do is find my excluded value. Before I do that, I'm going to factor it, x plus 3 and x plus 2. So that means my excluded values, x cannot equal negative 3 and negative 2. I'm going to find my common denominator, and that right there would be x plus 3, x plus 2. X plus 3, x plus 2, and then for the last one, x plus 3, x plus 2. So the x plus 2's cancel. 7 times x is 7x. 7 times 3 is 21. Here, the x plus 3 and the x plus 2 cancels, so I bring down the 2x plus 6. Here, I'm going to multiply the 9 by the x plus 3 and the x plus 2. If you remember from just earlier, that was this right here. So basically, I'm going to multiply the 9 by that trinomial, and I get 9x squared plus 45x plus 54. I'm going to add the like terms, so that gives me 9x plus 27 is equal to 9x squared plus 45x plus 54. I'm going to subtract the 9x, subtract the 27, subtract the 9x, subtract the 27, and that sets us up to equal 0, and 9x squared plus 36x plus 27. I see that all of them have a 9 in common, so I'm going to divide it by 9, and I get x squared plus 4x plus 3. And so two numbers that multiply together give us 3 add up to 4 would be 3 and 1. So x plus 3, x plus 1. And that means that my answer would be -3, -1, but when we look at our excluded values, we see a -3, so that means that we need to eliminate it, and our answer is just x equals -1. It's called extraneous, meaning that it does not actually work with the problem. And the reason why is because when you plug in a -3, it's going to make this denominator 0, and you can't divide something by 0. So looking at letter D, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to look for our common denominator, but before that, we're going to find our excluded value. In this case, x cannot equal 0. X and 5x would give us a common denominator of 5x, so we're multiplying everything by 5x. The x's cancel. 5 times 3 is 15. 5x's cancel, and that gives us 1, and then 1 times 5x is 5x. Add them up. 16 equals 5x. We divide it by 5, and so x is equal to 16 over 5. Notice that that's not equal to 0, so that's why that answer works. Our last one, what we're going to do is we're going to factor. So we have x minus 7, x minus 3. And so our excluded values, x cannot equal 7 or 3. So when we're finding our common denominator, it would be x minus 7 and x minus 3. X minus 7 and x minus 3. And then we have x minus 7 and x minus 3. So for the first one, both of them cancel out. So we bring down the x squared minus 29. For the next one, the x minus 7's cancel. So 6 times x is 6x. 6 times -3 is -18. X minus 3's cancel. 5 times x is 5x. And 5 times -7 is -35. We're going to add the like terms. X squared minus 29 is equal to 11x minus 53. I like the x squared to be positive, so I'm going to subtract the 11x and add the 53. Subtract the 11x and add the 53. And when I do that, I get x squared minus 11x and then plus 24 is equal to 0. So I'm looking for two numbers that when multiply them together give you 24, add up to -11, and that gives us -8 and -3. So x minus 8, x minus 3 is equal to 0. So x is equal to 8, 3. And then when we look at our excluded values, We notice that 7 and 3, we have a 3 right there, so we're going to cross that out, and x is just equal to 8.